With your leave, Madam Speaker, I rise to make a statement on the point as Minister of various ministries. First of all, let me start out by wishing all happy independence on our 41st anniversary. Honorable Speaker, I have multiple ministries that I need to update the country on, and so I'll take this opportunity to do such. Madam Speaker, as Minister of Finance, I want to once again remind our country as to where we met things in this country from a financial standpoint. We came into office on the 5th of August 2022. We recognize, Madam Speaker, on taking office that there were a number of serious troubling matters. And I will keep saying it, Madam Speaker, because I think everything has to be taken into context. But most of all, there must be context. Our people must be given the information. There must be transparency, and there must be openness, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are some who do not want to hear it, but it would be remiss of me as the Minister of Finance and as the Prime Minister not to remind our people as to what we found here in St. Kitts and Nevis with respect to the economy. Madam Speaker, let me say from the onset that the people were misled, Madam Speaker. The audit shows that. The first budget that was passed demonstrated that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we found some very troubling things that were shocking and rocking the very foundation of this country. Much of it was hidden, Madam Speaker, from the eyes of the people. It was orchestrated. It was planned. From my perspective, what was done was nothing short of an act to deceive the people and to make sure that those who would benefit, that their acts would be hidden. It tells me that people sat down and planned it. It took a great deal of organization, a great deal of planning, a great deal of putting together. Because when one looks at this, it must be quickly recognized that this plan was a master plan. And those who orchestrated it had to have been deliberate, but also have the know-how of how you can do accounting like this to get away with it. Most of us here are not accountants. The people in the country are not accountants. And there are accountants who will not even recognize what was done. And that is why we had to bring in forensic accountants and experts for them to look through the record and find exactly what was taking place. And that was tabled right here. And I'm speaking of the audit of the Development Bank, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it shows that the bank was in serious trouble. The bank was in debt of $333 million, Madam Speaker. Serious trouble. And in order to hide that, the deliberate action was taken that there would be no external auditing of the bank. And that was stopped between 2018 and 2019, Madam Speaker. That is not mentioned in the annual budget address. There were no audits tabled, Madam Speaker, of the bank in this honorable house. None. It was all hidden from the people. And then when the opposition back then sought to ask questions, they were shut down, Madam Speaker. But today, we are facing a bank that is $333 million in debt. No audit. All the external institutions who would support the development bank, all of them withdrew their business with the bank because part of a basic requirement to do business with external financial institutions is that you must have a current audit. That was deliberate, Madam Speaker. And because the development bank is owned by the government but seen as a private company, sometimes it's not discussed as it should be in the halls of Parliament. And so it was hidden. I'm sure there were people in that administration who did not even know what was taking place in the development bank because of how well orchestrated the plan was executed. Madam Speaker, $333 million in debt. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's over $250 million. That equates to about a quarter of our annual budget, or maybe just over a quarter. Significant. Madam Speaker, hidden from the people. Where did that money come from, Madam Speaker? A lot of that money came from Social Security. Again, because in the annual budget, no one asks about Social Security. And so you took the money from there, you put it in the bank, Social Security is not being paid back, no audits of the bank, external audits, so nobody really knows what's going on. And then the Minister of Finance, who was responsible for the bank, his brother was the CEO for Development Bank. It's a fact. And his brother was also on the board for Development Bank. This was well orchestrated. Social Security, sorry. The Board of Social Security. This was well orchestrated, Madam Speaker. Well orchestrated. And so Social Security has over $130 million in Development Bank. Development Bank took the decision to stop paying Social Security then. And where did that money go? What happened to that money? And so everybody's thinking Development Bank is opening on a Sunday, Saturday night. We remember those days when the big truck used to pull up. I want us to drag our memory not to forget that. Because sometimes with time, we tend to forget, and people might ask, why do I repeat it? Because it is a fundamental aspect of our economy and how it is affecting it, even presently, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that money, we learned through the audit again, that persons used to be sent from the Development Bank to go over to the other bank to collect that money in cash in a duffel bag. $500,000 in cash, $600,000 in cash, $700,000 in cash, to be brought back to the Development Bank, where in a boardroom that money would be split up and leave the bank in bags, Madam Speaker. But most of that money disappeared down a dark hole, Madam Speaker. I mean, this is what took place. This was orchestrated. And I'm saying again, there's a case coming. But of course, the legal process is in play. Because the people would want to know what happened to all of that money. Where did it go? Madam Speaker, I want to say today that you had a program that they call the Peace Program. There were people in the Peace Program who did not know what was taking place on the back end. Madam Speaker, all of this money missing in the name of the Peace Program. They did not know that Social Security was suffering as a result. They did not know that the audits, the external audits were stopped, and that the Development Bank was entering to a very precarious situation on the precipice of collapse. Very well orchestrated. And there were good people associated who meant well, Madam Speaker. I don't decry their efforts. But then at the back end, we had to bring in forensic experts to expose all of this, Madam Speaker. Well orchestrated, hidden from the people. And then some people say, Lord, I got some money in my pocket. Oh, they got money over here and money over there. But it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Continuously taken from a drum that is running empty and dangerously empty. The drum being, of course, the Development Bank and Social Security. Putting people's Social Security at risk. We had to pump millions of dollars, Madam Speaker, into the Development Bank so it can do some business, and it's picking up its business, so that it could carry out its mandate and immediately bring in auditors, apart from the forensic auditors who gave us what was taking place, to bring in auditors so that we can go back and re-establish those relationships. For example, with proper relationships with the CDB and the European Development Bank, reputable organizations that are refusing to do business with St. Kitts and Nevis because of the state of the Development Bank. Madam Speaker, I want this to be clear. As the Minister of Finance, I have to say this so that people can know exactly what took place. Because we were able to pump millions upon millions into Development Bank, we were able to restart our student loans, our mortgage program, small business loan program. And then Development Bank now had to raise that money to pay to Social Security so that Social Security would not be in any threat. And today, I'm happy to say that we were able to do that. Madam Speaker, when you have to use money to do that, that have consequences. It has consequences, real life consequences for people. It means that the bank in itself would not be able to carry out as much as activities as it would like. However, it is carrying out activities and regaining its reputation. It means, Madam Speaker, that you would have put Social Security at risk, and we had to avoid that. Those monies could have been used for other things. Build homes, fix schools, Madam Speaker, fix roads, give people water. But if we did not pump all those millions in and those institutions were put at risk or collapse, what would happen to the country on a whole? Madam Speaker, it is like a man got money in his pocket, going around buying and spending, but he ain't paying his bills. And Skelly coming to cut him off because he ain't pay. Or the water department, or the cable, or he had a loan and he ain't pay for it because he just spending his money and not respecting the obligations that he has. This is what happened here, Madam Speaker. Just spend. I don't care what happened to the Development Bank. Just spend. I don't care what happened to Social Security. Just spend. I don't care what happened to the CBI. I don't care what happened to the coffers of the government. Just spend. And so we had to inherit that now and stabilize all of that. And those who perpetrated this on the people going around talking nonsense. Madam Speaker, the full picture is there now. It took some time to get the full picture. But on this 41st Independence Anniversary, the full picture is now there, Madam Speaker. So I want to say that I'm happy to report that Social Security is in a much better place, and it will remain there. I want to report that the bank is roaring back to be a reputable institution here in St. Kitts and Nevis, to be respected throughout the region, Madam Speaker. Those are things we should be proud of. Madam Speaker, the other thing as the Minister of Finance I want to bring forward is the CBI program. For the first time in our history, I, as the minister responsible for the CBI program, gave the people information on it. Madam Speaker, the actions of those people put the reputation of our CBI at serious risk, to the point where our visa-free access to certain jurisdictions was seriously threatened, Madam Speaker. And so I had to take drastic action. This government had to take drastic action. We had to take drastic action in the world and our international partners that this administration is serious when we speak about bringing good governance to that program. Madam Speaker, of course, with these changes, it would cause, to some extent, some upheaval within the program. But I think people who are close to the program, they understood, or they understand rather, why some of those actions had to be taken. Today I want to say that the program is in a much better position to move forward, Madam Speaker. But I want to say it had to go through its challenges. Because again, poor management and mismanagement of the previous administration when it comes to it. And we see all that is being said and so forth. Madam Speaker, the last minister of this was asked publicly, give me some information with respect to the CBI, and his response was, it's an industry secret. No transparency, Madam Speaker. But we made sure that we did everything to strengthen it, and had to go through the pain, Madam Speaker. Hard pain, Madam Speaker. Pain like childbirth, Madam Speaker. Serious pain, Madam Speaker. Pain like a kidney stone coming down the track, Madam Speaker. Pain that make you grin and sweat, Madam Speaker. That is why I said from the beginning that this was the most challenging issue that I would have to deal with, Madam Speaker. Today, it is a statutory body. We are going through the process of interviews to fully establish what the new product would be. We have met with those who are involved, our local service providers, and so forth, and we have given them the necessary information. They understand even better now why we had to take the actions that we take. It is a CBI program that used to help with a number of things in this country, Madam Speaker. The extra salary came directly from the CBI program. The PAP program came from there. The STEP program came from there. So if you have PAP, STEP, PEACE, all of these come in fundamentally from the revenues there. And you are going to take actions that are going to hurt the program. What are you doing eventually, Madam Speaker? You're hurting all of these programs. And then in addition to that, you dig into the development bank and the Social Security. And Madam Speaker, the other thing that we are bringing here before the House is the audit of the SIDF accounts. That's the next thing that we are unearthing. Is the more you look, is the more corrupt practices you find, Madam Speaker. So now, it is what we have to do now is real build back. Madam Speaker, with all of this, the country was left without water. The minister responsible is here. The people in the country are crying. Not one well drilled in 7 years, Madam Speaker. Not one well. We know that climate change was coming. We know that the water will continue to decrease the rainfall on an average. We know that the climate change is causing the melting of the ice caps. And this is causing a rise in the sea level. And the rise in the sea level is infiltrating our underground water aquifers. Our underground aquifers. And that infiltration is putting them at risk. Because with more heat, more evaporation of water that falls, decreased rainfall on average, less water to go to the aquifer, and then the aquifer is being threatened by infiltration because of rising sea levels. 3 significant threats, climate threats to our aquifers. We know that. And not one well drilled. And so when you hear people crying out for water as they should, those who were responsible acting as if they did not know that this was coming. And did nothing, not one well was dug or drilled, Madam Speaker. And so we had to inherit that. And right away, we had to engage B to say, look, finish the job that you started 7 years previously. And that is why Keon's water situation is so much better now. And now BEAD is moving on, I think, to Molyneux, Madam Speaker. But we also recognize that while that is going on, we need other solutions. And so we are building a 2 million gallon water desalination plant. And that, of course, is under the guidance of our minister who is responsible for water, the Honorable Conway Maynard. Ground has broken, and the process continues, Madam Speaker. That would be able to give the withdrawal from the aquifers in Bastille a break so that they can rest and get some recharging so that we can prevent as far as possible the infiltration of salt water, which will signal the end of the potable water that we get from them. Madam Speaker, that costs us $50 million. I have to choose between water and everything else. But water is life. It is that essential. If we run out of water here in St. Kitts and Nevis, do we know what that means? If those wells get infiltrated and you lose millions of gallons of water that those wells produce per day, St. Kitts is in serious trouble. Serious, serious trouble. So we had to take the immediate action. Take $50 million, Madam Speaker, and say we need water now. Those are the kind of things we are being faced with. Irresponsible governance. How can you allow the water situation to get so dire in St. Kitts and Nevis? Look at how quick we have acted in less than 2 years. You had 7 years and left us in a situation like this, Madam Speaker. So when people say, so that $50 million, you know what we could have been doing with it? Had there been a systemic approach to this whole thing? Minister of Education that could fix more schools?
Oh yes, and they fix them.
Minister of Roads that could fix more roads?
And I need one of these.
And every new road I do, another community say they want theirs.
Minister of Tourism that could be 3 more planes and fix up your port? But we have to make sure that water is available. That is how basic this thing is. It's almost as if we have to build back the country from scratch. Because in 2022 we are talking about water. And then you hear for the last 7 years, surplus after surplus after surplus after surplus. It's like a man saying, well, I get me money, and man care about my water, man care about my electricity, and man care about this, and I got a lot of money in my hand. You think he rich. But when you look behind, you say, but what happened to all them bills you ain't paying? But the unpaid bills in St. Kitts and Nevis mean no water. The unpaid bills mean no electricity. The unpaid bills mean a leak in hospital. This is what it means for a country. And that is why we have taken such drastic and radical and very critical and vital even decisions to make sure we protect the people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, this is critically important. Madam Speaker, that is why I want to thank the Minister again who is leading this, the Honourable Cornelius Maynard, for his quick action on the water matter. He has assured me that in short order, we are going to have the commissioning of the desalination plant at Canada within the next few weeks. That will produce around 70,000 gallons of water per day. In short order, a well in Cayon has good water situation, much better. A desal plant at the Canada area, which will put it in good stead, and a 2 million gallon to come right here in Basti. All that and more drilling is taking place around the country, Madam Speaker. This is where I'm putting the money of the people, Madam Speaker. I cannot afford for the country to run out of water, because that would be, of course, a travesty. Madam Speaker, the other thing, as the Minister of Finance that I've been looking at, is the question of energy. Because we were also left without energy, Madam Speaker. And the Ministry of Finance had to partner with the Ministry of Energy to make sure that we could have energy going into December. Do you know what we had to do? We had to rent generators. We have bought a number of generators, Madam Speaker. But we had to rent generators or rent power so that during December and going forward, we don't have a serious affectation of our energy situation. Look at St. Martin, for example. Look at St. Martin, for example. I was in St. Martin, and you're in St. Martin and you don't know if the lights going to come on. If you come in, or go in. Literally, it has gotten so bad that they can't even predict at the power station when the lights will be on or off in St. Martin. But Madam Speaker, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we had a different approach. The cabinet, the minister is here with his ministry, did an assessment and determined what we will need to make sure that the situation does not get dire. Improvements are needed, and we are working on those improvements, Madam Speaker. But we can predict when the electricity will go in St. Kitts and Nevis for the most part. And I want to thank Skelec for sending out the notice. Thank you, Minister, making sure people are informed in case there might be an interruption anywhere, so you can plan, Madam Speaker. But we are bringing rental energy to make sure that we protect the generators so they can get a rest and be repaired and serviced so they don't break down totally. Madam Speaker, the other thing that we have done in relation to our relationship with the Saudis is that we have sought a $40 million loan, low-interest loan, concessional loan, to buy 2 new generators. Those generators can use LNG and LPG, correct?
LNG and diesel.
And diesel.
Dual fuel.
Right? So they can use either or. Modern. Those are costing us like $40 million US. If we don't do that, we will run out of energy here, Madam Speaker. So when people were talking about surplus after surplus after surplus, you mean to say you did not buy the generators that you know would fail? We had to inherit that, Madam Speaker. That $40 million US, which is about 108 million EC dollars. You know how much things I could do around here? And there had been a systematic approach to make sure that we generate enough electricity at our power plant with a strategy. But that was not important because that is not sexy, Madam Speaker. It's not sexy for me to say, yeah, we bought 2 new generators. That's not sexy to talk about. Madam Speaker, in local parlance, people understand what that means. It's better to talk about, oh, yes, yes. Oh, take this, take that, take this, take that. But you have no water, no electricity. Better to speak about those things. Which one is that?
It was all show.
It was all show. Donkey and horse show, Madam Speaker. Donkey and horse show. That's all it was. But the reality and the truth is being exposed. People know these things. Madam Speaker, not one generator that I can remember was bought. Or if any was bought,
None, just some of the temporary ones, not fixed capacity.
no fixed capacity, Madam Speaker, just some temporary ones. Man, the electricity, man, trying a temporary thing, they ain't gonna realize. Trying a temporary thing here, they ain't gonna realize. Everything was planned and orchestrated to fool the people. While that was taking place, the very foundation of our country was being rocked. No water, no electricity, and the banks in trouble. All of it being exposed now, Madam Speaker. But when you have to spend money on all these things and you still have the heart to go around and talk about pap and step and all these kind of things, and leave the people or left the people without water. Madam Speaker, that is what was inherited by the Ministry of Finance, and these are the priorities that we have to make, Madam Speaker. Of course, people would complain about a number of things here and there, and they have a right to, because that is their way of expressing how they feel. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we give them the information and to let them know what we inherited. Madam Speaker, unsustainable. Madam Speaker, with the peace program between February of 2022 and June of 2022, hundreds of others were added. Same for the PAP, same for the STEP. All of them were used as political instruments, knowing that it was unsustainable, knowing that things were in trouble, knowing that the development bank was failing, knowing that social security was under threat, knowing that you had damaged the CBI program for political expediency. And then we had to inherit that, and now we have to fix it. So we have to say things like, we have to buy generators. We have to say things like, we're drilling for water. We have to say things like, we have to stabilize the bank. These are the kind of things that we have to say, Madam Speaker. But it was orchestrated, and we have to keep saying it, Madam Speaker. Well, Madam Speaker, I want to say that it was left in that. And that is why we brought good governance legislation, and that is why we set out to start to work with what we had for the people, Madam Speaker. So quickly, let me just remind our people, there was no water, inadequate water, inadequate electricity, a leaking hospital roof. All the time they're talking about healthcare. The hospital roof used to leak up there like ain't nobody business. They had a section up there in the hospital, you can't tell if it's sky or galvanized. You should straight up. Yes, between the eye clinic and where they do physiotherapy. Neglected. You got there, see the state of with the kitchen, and we are doing a plan for the kitchen. We have invested significantly in the hospital. I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan, for helping us with the roof. For the most part, the leaking has stopped. That is how basic we had to go, Madam Speaker. Stop the leak. Right now, we are upgrading the electrical that was neglected all those years, Madam Speaker. We are installing a new CT scan machine, an MRI that they spoke about. We are now doing a building for that. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the cable and all other partners, TDC and so forth, who partner on the refurbishing of the foyer of the hospital. Go up there and you see that, Madam Speaker. New eye equipment, no eye surgeries were taking place in St. Kitts and Nevis. People had cataract and were going blind in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to remind the people. People were blind. As if you're living in a country where you ain't had no surplus. People were blind, Madam Speaker, because the cataract got so bad and they had no place to operate. Even if people had money privately, they could not even do that. Madam Speaker, we invested hundreds of thousands of US dollars in new equipment for the eye clinic. That today we are doing surgery after surgery and bringing back people's vision. This is how basic it got, Madam Speaker. There were some children who could have lived that were dying, And I decided that no child in St. Kitts and Nevis should die. Whether the parents rich or poor, if there's a way to help them. People will die, this is life, unfortunately. But we should fight for every life, Madam Speaker, because every life is precious. Let us go down fighting. But we just can't throw up our hand and say, the child got a heart problem. Well, work out that mother. You're only working for $400 downtown. You can't afford a surgery in the United States or in Cayman or wherever the specialists are and the specialized care is. We put an end to that. I tell the mothers and fathers and guardians in St. Kitts and Nevis, I ain't once in a sponsorship to save no child life. Done with that. These are the very basic things, Madam Speaker. We're bringing decency to the country. And because of that, last year in 2023, no child in St. Kitts between the ages of 1 and 4 died. Not one. Do you know what it takes to achieve something like that? Not one child died? How you get that done? It is a combination of things, and that is why I want to congratulate all the health workers, both in St. Kitts and Nevis. And the Nevision children, they have benefited because they are members of the Federation and they should benefit as well. And they have benefited. They go to the Premier's office, they get the assistance there, they say, okay, we need some more assistance, they come over here, they get the assistance. And so a number of children in Nevis have had very complicated surgeries done or medical treatment done. A mother sent me a picture the other day of the child in preschool from Nevis. And your office reached out, Premier, and did their part as well. And the child is in preschool, running around, going well. That would have been a child that would have been dead had it not been for the investments that we are making. Only in St. Kitts, Madam Speaker, that a child is guaranteed that. There was another child from Nevis, his name is, father is Woody. Is Woody his name, the DJ? Got in an accident, young boy, swimming and, enjoying his life. Happened to get in an accident, broke his neck. Everybody started collaborating from Nevis's end, St. Kitts' end, got him off. And I saw a picture with him just recently, sitting up in bed and going through his therapy. That child would have been dead, Madam Speaker. This is where we have to invest our money. And because of these programs and interventions, the child is alive today, Madam Speaker. I want to speak, there are issues, of course, that we have to resolve, but I'm saying that we have come a very long way. I said before that St. Kitts and Nevis must become one of the safest places to have a child. And that is not hard to achieve. We can achieve it, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the health workers for their hard work. Because sometimes it's not easy. We have to admit sometimes as a people, we are not, sometimes we demand a lot. And sometimes we don't say things in the proper way as we should. I want to encourage us that when we go for service, to treat the people who serve us well, treat them well as well. So that there can be good rapport and better understanding between those who receive the service and those who give the service. Treat the doctors well, treat the nurses well, treat the health workers well. And I will say to the health workers, continue to do well and do even better. To all of us in this together, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I can say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, before the year ends, we'll have a brand new spanking CT scan machine at JNF. Just the other day, partnering, we brought in some very highly sophisticated ultrasound to test the heart and arteries in the system and so forth, that we don't have ultrasound at the hospital that can do that. At the hospital right now. Madam Speaker, I would like to say we have EEG machine testing your brain waves and all kind of thing, first time at the hospital. Madam Speaker. The most specialists ever in our history at the hospital. We have specialists for diabetes, blood sugar, same thing. We have specialists for nerves. We have anesthesiologists, surgeon. Madam Speaker, we have 4 internists, multiple obstetrician gynecologists, multiple surgeons. I want to thank Dr. Mark Grant and his wife who have come back to contribute. We want our people in the diaspora to come home and contribute, Madam Speaker. We have 2 nephrologists. Those are who deal with kidney. 2 psychiatrists plus psychologists at the hospital. Most ever in our history, Madam Speaker. And therefore, that is why I'm saying that there are always going to be challenges, and I don't accept that there are no challenges. There's challenges. And where there are challenges, we have to work to overcome them to get better at it each time. And I intend to unveil very soon the completed work of the foyer of the hospital. We stop the leak, we make the hospital look better, we brought in more specialists, and we'll continue to work to upgrade the services. And so I want to thank the health workers for their hard work and dedication. Madam Speaker, we are going to build a brand new hospital here. Today, I went to the site because we have already started to clean the land and do the analysis and so forth to get construction going. So it's a process, Madam Speaker. It's not that it's taking long, it's just the process, Madam Speaker. It's just like if you're cooking rice. Rice takes a certain amount of time to cook. You got to give the rice the time to cook. Otherwise, you're going to eat raw rice. Asaki rice. It just needs the time to cook, Madam Speaker, I just said. And so the hospital is progressing, Madam Speaker. And so what we want in the Federation, Madam Speaker, is to have a hospital that can withstand Category 5 hurricanes. One of the things that I noticed when I went to the Grenadines is that on both the islands, the Grenadines, the hospitals were destroyed. And I asked each Prime Minister, where are the patients? They said, oh, they're on the mainland. They're on the mainland. If the hospitals in St. Kitts are destroyed, where is our mainland? Where will we go? Madam Speaker, again, this is a proactive move. When you do proactive things, you don't get as much credit as if you intervene in an emergency. But people would only see it and value it some years down the road. Madam Speaker, those are the tough decisions that have to be made now to protect your people then, because they will not forgive you when the full truth is revealed, which would be, you know, Prime Minister, you knew, cabinet members, that climate change is real because the Honorable Dr. Joy Clark, Senator, who is a specialist in this area, a PhD in geography, knows this topic inside out, has been saying to the nation and to us, it's coming, we see it coming. Well, we can not do anything about it. How can we justify to the people that we had an expert in the cabinet who told us what was happening and we did nothing? If you did not know, well, you did not know, but we would not have that excuse. And therefore, we're taking the proactive action to build a hospital that can withstand these strong storms. We only want one. Just one. And if I've been saying that the hospital roof is leaking, there are structural weaknesses of the roof of the present hospital that has, it to some extent has served its time. We have fixed it, and we know it can withstand a certain level of storm. But the stronger storms, Madam Speaker, it will succumb. And therefore, we are making sure we have a hospital that can withstand. That is irrational for the hospital. It is irrational. The Federation must have an institution such as a hospital that it can withstand all of that. For example, in Nevis, the patients come over for dialysis treatment. There were some issues with the scheduling, which we have worked out to accommodate our Nivision patients. Because sometimes it doesn't make sense to have a dialysis center here and a dialysis center there when you look at overall costs. I'm saying that more partnerships to help the Federation, Madam Speaker. Nevis has a cardiologist in the public sector, we don't. And so patients go over there to get an ultrasound of the heart. So we want to create a space, Madam Speaker, where we can share resources as we are doing. And I want to thank the Ministry of Health of Nevis because it has been cooperating and we have been able to achieve a number of things as a result, and we will achieve more. So, Madam Speaker, I just wanted to reiterate why the ministry thinks that a hospital that can withstand the scourge of climate change and a Category 5 hurricane is critically important. It is going to cost us $50 million roughly. I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan, for partnering with us. These are the things that we have to do because they only become important when we lose them. And these are critical things, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, let me go to wrap up now. I want to say that we also met no Bastia High School. 7 years of talking about a Bastia High School. I went to Bastia High School yesterday, before yesterday, Madam Speaker. No Bastia High School, Madam Speaker. And I want to reiterate, $650,000 per month for consultancy and advice through advisors. That alone, Madam Speaker, per month is more than all the advisors they say I have put together. If I put all the advisors that are employed by the government now, and I add their salaries up per month, it is less than what they spent for one advisor on the Bastia High School and no school up there. This is a fact, Madam Speaker. No school. Emperor has no clothes. No clothes the emperor has, Madam Speaker. And so we are, the Minister of Education will speak to that. Madam Speaker, we also brought down the interest on student loan in the development bank. Madam Speaker, the minimum wage or the living wage that was spoken of, not 1 cent added. Not 1 cent added, Madam Speaker. We increased the minimum wage to $4.30, which is possibly the highest, or one of the highest for sure, in the top 2 in the CARICOM, in less than 2 years. Madam Speaker, no pension for GAE workers. A corrupt peace program that robbed the country. Even the good people who had good intention, who were involved, did not know all of this was going on. A development bank on the precipice of collapse. A social security that had to be rescued, Madam Speaker. In other words, our economy was brought to the knees, and a CBI program which we depended upon 70% of the economy, Madam Speaker. Who does that? Who brings the economy to depend 70% on a program? So if anything happens to it, the country must take the hit. The people must take the hit. This is what we inherited. No diversification of the economy. So if between 2015 and 2020, you say you had all those surpluses, where was the investment in the diversification of the economy? We look at the Gulf states today. They have a lot of money from oil and gas. And when I travel there, they're telling me that the economy will no longer depend on oil and gas because they've invested to diversify the economies. I was told that by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. That is how they're doing it. So if you have all of this, why you did not invest to diversify your economy so that it can be more resilient and sustainable? Why? And just lick money here, lick money there, like you got all the money in the world. Only to find out it was a what? A horse and donkey show. I'm sure the horse and donkey must be upset with me. God, this was horrendous, Madam Speaker. That's all it was. And so we have to now go in and diversify the economy. If you know that the CBI was so critical, why not protect it, Madam Speaker? Why put it at risk? Why? And so now we have to come to make the decisions to stabilize all these things. And they have consequences. And some of them political consequences. But my grandmother used to say to me, the truth shall set you free. She said, tell the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And not only said that, she said, you're going to sleep good. God bless her soul, she was right. So all of this mess, Madam Speaker, we had to clean up, and we are in the process of cleaning up. And a lot of this was hidden from the people and even people who sat right in the cabinet. I'm fully aware, because when the forensics experts extracted the information, this was so well orchestrated, not even a regular accountant would have recognized it. It was well done, well planned, well executed. But people think they're bright. You got brighter people. People think they're smart. You got smarter people who will find out what happened. Madam Speaker, I want to say to the people that we have introduced the highest minimum wage, GAE pension. We have brought Elevate to replace Peace, mainly because of the corruption in the development bank that was killing the bank. We don't know where the money gone. Madam Speaker, we gave civil servants an increase. We invested in water in the tens and tens of millions. We invested in energy in the tens and tens of millions. We have relaunched the CBI program, but it took a hit, Madam Speaker, but we took a temporary hit to get it going. We have invested in a new hospital for the Federation. The Bastia High School, I think the minister would speak about it at some point. We have expanded the housing program. Madam Speaker, I said I was at the site of the hospital today. I want to say I was at the site of the housing. The minister has already launched his housing program. And so they were doing a house under the new program, Madam Speaker, up in my constituency. And I went to see the initiation of that house. There's a young man by the name of David Morton. He works as a security guard who is now going to have his house built. The young man is so happy. When I saw the happiness in his eyes, I said to the to East Coast, you got to build this house as fast as you could, because I want to see more eyes with happiness, Madam Speaker. Because he knows his life is transformed. So everybody was saying, when the house is coming, when they're coming again, if rice has to cook, he just take the time that rice has to cook at. Oh, I hear you. So, Madam Speaker, we went through the pain and the teething pain and so forth to bring such a large program on the stream, but we are there now. And the heavy equipment workers are there, and the construction workers are there, and these persons, all kind of people working now. Because the hospital alone, they're going to take about 250 to 300 workers. This housing program is going to take hundreds of workers. The other one that the minister is going to speak about, of education, is going to take a lot of workers. The solar energy is going to take a lot of workers. We're going to run out of construction workers. I predicted it before the election. And I told the people that. So I want the construction workers to get ready. They will be called, and they're being called right now. We need you. We have houses to build, hospitals to build. Energy to transform. Madam Speaker, so we are ready for the people now. Get ready to work, Madam Speaker, to work. And so all I'm saying is that this has to be a country that is going to be resilient and be, of course, a country that has to be managed in a particular way, in the sense that we want our people to work. Madam Speaker, I'm almost done, but I can't sit without talking about the Aspire program. The Aspire program is a revolutionary program. No other country in the Western Hemisphere has a program like that. The Aspire program is a program that will give each child between the ages of 5 and 15 in St. Kitts, 18, in St. Kitts and Nephis, $1,000 in grant. That money, $500, will be placed in an account so that they can manage it and learn how to save money. And $500 will go to buying shares in companies. So the children will own part of National Bank, the cable, and we're going to create another company for them to own. So can you imagine a child from St. Kitts traveling, 9, 10, and say, well, let me check on my iPad to see how my shares are doing at the National Bank. I'm like, you're 8, 9, 10, and you're checking shares? How would that work? Which country does that? You mean you have shares in a bank and you're 8, 9, 10? So you mean you're 8, 9, 10 and you're sleeping and your money making money? The way that is happening. Can you imagine a child at Monkey Hill? Mother might be poor, working for minimum wage, but while the mother and the child sleeping, the money doing some work for them in their shares. Madam Speaker, I want to thank this cabinet for its support. This is going to have a tremendous positive impact that we may not feel right now. But they're going to position St. Kitts and Nevis. When this program was being thought of, my mind went and Robert Bratcher. Robert Bratcher brought social security to this country. And when he argued social security in the 70s, there were people saying, oh, Bratcher going to take out your money. Oh, Bratcher going to do this. Today, everybody look forward to come 62 to get the social security. That was our first national hero. He thought about us. He knew he was planting a tree under whose shade he would never enjoy. But he was determined that I would be able to sit under that tree and enjoy the shade that he never got to enjoy. But yet he planted the seeds. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to plant seeds. We are supposed to plant seeds. Those trees will not give us any shade. But the generation to come, and when these children go up, they're supposed to know I plant the tree, we plant the tree, so that they can have shade. Madam Speaker. I mean, look how much people leave in school today. Especially when you come from a poor family. Nothing in the bank. No idea about investments. Your parents couldn't put away $2 a week for you because things kind of rough. That is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Because in the next generation, the rich multiply their riches to pass on. Generational wealth. The poor people ain't got that because they can't afford it. Well, if they can't afford it, let's make the investment. So that a child in McKnight, in Gingerland, Jessop's, what the place name, the goat thing?
The goat hole.
Goat hole! Would have investments as well, Madam Speaker. We're leaving them out. So if they live in that area, we're going to find them too. They can't hide from us. The parent might be passed on. They might be in a tough socio-economic situation. But we don't want them to lose hope. Madam Speaker, some people say that part of the reasons why you can have crime is because of poverty. I think crime is multi-dimensional. It's not poverty alone. Because a lot of people grow up in poverty and never ended up in crime. Because they have a lot of other good things around them. But if this is one of the factors, let's eliminate it. If we can. Let's eliminate it. There are other things based on human condition and the human experience that we can't totally eliminate. But if we can eliminate what we can eliminate that can cause problems, let us eliminate them. And apart from that, there's a responsibility on the children, Madam Speaker, that they must be taught financial education, or they will have financial education. So the curriculum has already been put together and tested. I want to thank the Central Bank for partnering with us, the Bankers Association, the Credit Union Association, private financial experts, and the central government. I want to thank the National Bank. I want to thank the cable. So this wasn't a fly-by-night. Again, people were saying, you talk about the program, when is it coming? Again, Deputy, if the rice has to cook, it takes the time to cook. And that is why we're able to launch it now, Madam Speaker. It's not going to be no rush thing, and you're rushing and you got to rush out. It's not no rush thing. And so all of the children, and most of the children will have the iPad and the laptops, and they will be able to manage their accounts, making sure that they get the dividend and the dividend is added. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those children say, well, I want to go to an AGM to ask the chair of the National Bank, how is the bank doing? 9 and 10. Can you imagine a 9, 10-year-old shop? Well, I got my shares, I want to know how you're doing in here. And the children are going to know because they're going to learn in school, so you can't fool them. You got to give them proper answers. They're going to be the most educated and earned per capita when it comes to financial education, the petitions and divisions. Nobody's going to be more educated than them. We set the curriculum for that. I don't care if they come from Canada, United States, Europe, wherever they come from, per capita, we'll be the most educated, Madam Speaker. So it took a while, because it has to take a while, to properly set it in train. We even tested the curriculum, where we send part of the curriculum with some teachers to teach it, get the feedback, and see where we had to tweak it. Because it will be age-appropriate financial education. And some of those children are going to teach the parents how to budget. They're going to teach the children, their parents. The parents are going to learn from them. They're going to also ask the parents for less money. Because then when they start to learn budget, they're going to realize money is not infinite. They're going to understand whether the parents rich or poor, and they're going to affect how they behave when it comes to money. So they might start their little own business. They might say, well, mommy, I want to sell tam and jam. Well, if I make this amount of tam and jam and I sell this amount, the ingredients cost this so. So the cost to produce is this. I have to set it at this price so that I can make this profit so and so. And the profit I can do, I will put 50% to add to my account and get some more shares, and 50% I can use to buy my lunch, so and so and so. The children can do that. They are going to do that because they're going to get the education on how to run a sweetie business, a popcorn business. They're going to find a problem. They're going to say, well, children come to school every day. I realize something. Hey, sometimes they miss their pencil. Well, I'm going to get a lot of pencil. And if you want you to use my pencil, it will cost you, you could rent my pencil at maybe 25 cents a day. So you put down, I renting pencil, that's my business. They're going to do it. Trust me. They're going to do the little businesses. They're going to help themselves and they're going to help the parents. And so, Madam Speaker, I want this really to help to transform us and to transform our people. So, Madam Speaker, I could not speak of all these things without speaking about the aspire and asking our students to aspire to bigger and greater things. And so, Madam Speaker, I think that I have spoken enough, and I take my seat at this point in time. May it please you, Madam Speaker.